Good morning from Cannes. This is Thomas Crampton for the webinar from Asia. You can hear the coffee machine in the background. We're live from Cannes on the Croisette. And we have here the host, which is David Mayo, and myself are hosting here.
Yeah, thank you, Thomas. I'm David Mayo. I'm the CMO for Ogilvy Asia Pacific and the CEO for Bates CHI Partners.
And we've got a great selection of people here. We have Debbie Chung.
Hi, good morning and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Debbie Chung. I'm the president of Ogilvy and Meta Group Shanghai, and I'm also the president of Ogilvy PR in China and Hong Kong.
And we're very lucky to have a special guest here.
Lorenda Hearn from South Africa, representing the Rhino Rescue Project.
Rhino Rescue Project, which is a great piece of work we've seen here. And then representing the creative side, which is what Cannes is all about, we have
Reed Collins from Ogilvy Mather Hong Kong Group.
So, what we're going to do is have a little bit of a rundown on the what's been happening here at Cannes. We will talk about Ogilvy's results. Ogilvy, of course, has won 4 Cannes in a row, 4 Cannes in a row, and is aiming at a 5th right now. And we'll get the update on where that stands at the end of this webinar. But before we dive into it, Lorenda, I'd love to hear a little bit about the Rhino Rescue Project. This is you in this photograph.
Yes, that's right. Rhino Rescue Project was a project that I founded in South Africa about 6 years ago as rhino poaching started to increase dramatically. And we were quite lucky to be approached by Ogilvy Vietnam during the course of that time to do a massive demand reduction campaign for us in Vietnam, which is the major end user country of rhino horn at the moment.
And this is the winning entry.
That's it, yes. So in this, what Ogilvy have very generously called a low budget campaign, which was actually a no budget campaign. I mean, we literally had nothing. We managed to walk away with 2 lions thus far, so let's keep hoping for the rest of the week.
I thought that was absolutely amazing, actually. I mean, it's a low budget, massively high profile, by the way. And you should tell us a bit about
tell us about
what
what it was and how it worked and what it did.
Okay, so what we do, the concept is probably quite controversial in and of itself. We devalue or poison rhino horns effectively so that they are not suited for end users to use for medicinal purposes as they normally would.
What does that mean, poison it?
It means that we infuse the rhino's horn with a toxin that's not harmful to the animal at all, but that can dramatically affect humans in a negative way if they were to handle or consume these horns.
And is there any way that you can see that this is a rhino horn that has been infected?
So we also treat the horns with an indelible dye, so the same kind of dye used in the cash in transit industry to stain stolen banknotes. And if such a horn then enters into the market, of course, what we wanted Ogilvy to do for us, or advertising at least to do for us, which we hadn't done at all, was to make end users aware that they shouldn't be using these horns. Actually, they shouldn't be buying them at all. And that was the whole basis on which the campaign was then launched, saving Africa's last rhinos by poisoning them.
Interesting concept. Very good. So we have had a lot of creative work here. Reed, what are some of the highlights that you've seen going around the Croisette?
I think this year, just as a trend, I guess, there's a lot of work. Last year was more social cause, like kind of through everything that was winning. This year I see it all about scale, yeah? So it reaches stuff that is winning has won, or people have seen before, a lot, yeah? It's not coming up the first time, the first time juries are seeing things. They've either seen it in, on news programs and being in newspapers and being talked about, yeah, on scale. So a lot of ideas like that have come to the fore and they're winning really big. I love REI's Opt Outside campaign.
Describe that.
Where they take the biggest shopping day in America, yeah, and they shut all their stores, yeah, on that one day that everyone's going outside. So it was a massive risk for them financially, yeah, with all their retail outlets around the world, around America. And then all these other companies started to get on board of opting out, yeah. So encouraging people to go outside for an outdoor brand by not purchasing their clothes, which I thought was incredible.
And as you said, a high-risk strategy.
Yeah.
David, sort of a little bit of a step back and introduction to Cannes, and of course we welcome questions. Anybody that has any questions for any of our panelists here, please send them through in the question pane. You have been coming to Cannes for how long?
Probably about 12 years now, actually, Thomas. And it's changed a lot. I mean, I think the low point for Cannes, you know, I was talking to the chief executive, Philip Thomas, on Tuesday night about Cannes. I asked him, when was the low point for the competition? They had 3,000 people in 2009. The whole
3,000
thing,
people at the event.
at the event. So actually, attendees at the event.
There's probably 3,000 people in one
there
awards
are,
night.
there are almost 6 times that this year, and I mean, you can see, you know, it's changed hugely. I think there was stuff in the middle where Facebook was coming in, the platforms were coming in, where there was lots to see, and it was a very large and confusing festival. But what I found this year is, you know, it's quite clear that, you know, the chunks are bigger, I think, this year is what I mean. YouTube is here in force on behalf of Google. Facebook have got a massive presence right in the middle of everything. The interactive screens on the front of the Palais are all about Snapchat. So it's kind of gone from the agency festival to the client festival to the platform festival. That's what I've found this year. That's been the big difference for me.
You mean it is less confusing than it's been before?
Lorna, this is your first time here?
To the untrained eye, this
Okay,
is
well, give us this is, which is perfect. That's the point of view of a lot of people who've joined this webinar here have never been here before. Please give us your unfiltered perspective on what it is and what it's like.
How much time do you have? No, look, I mean, for us it's been as David has quite rightly said, the platforms have been out in force. I'm surprised to hear they're less socially responsible or ethical campaigns, because from what we could see, certainly there seems to be a lot of those ideas going around. Better corporate governance, a better way of doing things that we're already doing. And just the sheer number of people is absolutely astounding. The bums on seats at all the award shows where you can only stand if you've arrived.
And queuing to get in is incredible.
Yeah.
And when you said there were 3,000 people, literally, I always feel like there are 3,000 people within 50 meters of me here.
I think that's what the theatre holds, actually.
So no, it's for a newbie, it certainly is quite overwhelming and intimidating, but just unbelievable to see the level of creativity and the kind of ideas that are out there. What people are getting up to, you tend to get so caught up in your own little universe that this is a good wake-up call.
I think there are 3 strategies at Cannes, Lorinda. I think one strategy is, you know, it's all planned out before you come and you stick to the script,
Yes.
which is very exhausting. I think the second strategy is the sort of the fishing or flying a kite strategy, which is seeing somebody, the chance meetings, because there'll always be somebody here who's kind of, you know, relevant to you. And the third one is just to sit at home and hide, because there's just too much going on. It's the intimidation of an airport. You're like, where do I begin?
Go back to your hotel room.
That's right.
Hide.
And if you're
Lurk in your hotel
that's
room.
right. Lurk. The lurk strategy. That's
Okay,
right.
I've put up the slide asking people to put in their comments, etc. So please do go to the chat pane and ask questions, live questions. Debbie, in terms of David spoke about the changes over many years, which is it's got more of the platforms, all that sort of elements. Could you speak a little bit to the representation of China or even Asia more broadly? How do you feel like Asia is participant in this? Has that been part of the growth of Cannes?
Well, first of all, it's my first time. I'm amazed by the scale of this event, right? But I came because I'm curious about this festival, right? Because everyone says so much about this. It's, you know, amazing. Is where you get inspiration, you party, you network, everything. And I have a good experience of all that, right?
So do you agree with that or disagree with that?
Yes, that part I agree, right? But then when what you asked me is about whether that's good enough representation of Asia, I have a question mark actually, right? Because first of all, I think the language is already a hurdle for Asian to take part in it, because it's all in English, right? So, and there's no interpretation, right? So I think that's a big hurdle. We must admit that I don't think Asian can participate actively, first of all, right? Not to mention the ability to understand.
Sorry, could not
everything.
participate actively because.
Because the language is an issue. First of all, you need to understand the speaker,
Right.
right? And then you need not only sitting there passively, but you need to also actively participate, right?
Right.
Then you can't interact
It's
with
difficult
other
to
people.
engage
Yeah,
when
it's
there's
very
a language
difficult.
barrier.
So I would love to see change or advancement in this part, so that we can allow more Asian, more other people, not only Asian, but in Africa, in other parts of the world. And we're talking about international event, so a big part.
So you feel
is
you
missing.
by the way, we have our Myanmar colleagues who just sent through a question about it,
Yeah.
which is great. And they're saying we want to learn more about what CAN is and the creative work that's showing here. What could be done to bring it more and bring more out that international and get more Asia participation?
Right. Maybe it's just wild suggestion. Maybe we have, if we cannot change, totally, right? It's gonna be hard. Maybe partially, maybe some Asian pavilion, or something in a bigger scale. Because if you have a bigger group of Asian companies or to join, I think they would not be feeling minorities, right?
Well,
So would be a
that
good thing to
said,
start.
when you log onto the Wi-Fi with your mobile phone, Tencent has bought out
Yeah.
all of the Wi-Fis.
Yeah.
So there is an Asian
There
presence,
is.
but I guess you're saying if
Not
we could
enough.
group that together in a way, it
Yeah.
would be that much more
That's
powerful.
right. That's right. Yes.
I'm also interested in a second thing, Debbie. You come from PR. PR has traditionally not really been represented
Yes.
here, but has now increased a great deal over the last few years. And in the few years I've been coming to Canada, I've noticed that there is much more presence of PR. And is this now considered a key event for PR, and winning Cannes Lions is of higher importance than it was in the past, or is it?
Definitely.
Yes.
Right. I think first of all, I think PR has changed. Right. We have I would say we can have two streams. One is the pure play PR, and the other one is integrated. Right. So I think we have a lot more integrated work than before. I think among all agencies. Right. So I think for Ogilvy PR, we work very closely with other disciplines. So I think that Cannes will be of more importance in the PR industries, I would say. And then other thing is, I think I observed that a lot of the works here are related to doing good, right? So I think doing good is understanding of the society, right? Different stakeholders. And I think that's a big part of PR too. So that's why I think there will be more and more PR players here.
It's certainly one shift I've seen on the PR side is that 4 or 5 years ago, the PR submissions were slides. They were much like other competitions, whereas
Right.
Cannes, the language of Cannes
Right.
is what does it read? It's 90 seconds video, which PR is doing much more of now than previously.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
for me, PR is a part of every one of the categories now. Once
It's
it was
it's sort of
it is.
a
It permeates everything. It's like you look
Yeah.
at the press
Yes.
Grand Prix, and it's
Right.
a PR idea.
Yeah.
Start against McDonald's from Burger King. So
Wait, to describe the idea so people understand. Yeah, and by
Sorry.
the way, sorry, before you start, the Myanmar has said they would like to have, not so familiar with Cannes, would be hear more about the creative work. Yes, we will talk to you about the creative work, but we will do a later webinar that actually shows you the winning work. As yet, nobody has won the competition. We've had a number of the competitions that have come through, and we should probably talk a little bit about how that works. But Victoria and colleagues in Myanmar, we will bring that later as it goes forward. So, Reed, tell us
Sorry.
about McWhopper,
McWhopper from
which was
Bur-
not an Ogilvy campaign, to be clear.
Yes, correct. I think there was some involvement, but
Oh, actually, what David was involved. Yes, so
Yes.
there was Ogilvy involvement. Okay.
a small part of it. So the idea was an open letter from Burger King on World Peace Day to see if they could get their ultimate rival to partner and make a sandwich together. McDonald's did not want to participate in that.
But the way they
But-
did it
but
was not by sending a small note saying
Yes.
can we do it. They come out with big ads. Burger King.
They did a full-page press ad and a interview, online film, outdoor billboards, and yeah, that ultimately has won the. It's been very successful in a lot of categories, but it's quite unusual, for print ad, Grand Prix winner. Yeah,
In 2016. In 2016, a print ad.
Wow.
it was a PR story. Yeah. So it's great, it's fantastic. So, but I mean, the scale of it made enough conversation. Yeah, I think that's what the decision was about. Yeah, it was like, what is print and publishing? What makes a great print ad these days? Yeah, it removes it from that kind of two-dimensional space into a really big conversation that started. Yeah, in kind of it's just a PR stunt. So it's fantastic.
Yeah, so it started with the print ad that then sparked saying Burger King saying to McDonald's, let's do the McWhopper. Huge conversation around that.
Yeah, and everyone
and so it was not really the print ad. It was the what happened next.
Correct.
And the idea itself was inherently something that went beyond a traditional print.
Yeah.
Although it's encouraging for print media, if you consider how many people are scared nowadays, the digital is completely killing print. For it to have sparked such a response is unbelievable. That was one of of my favorites that I've seen thus far. And then all of the Glass Lion works that were entered that promote gender equality.
What
Because
do you think of the Grand Prix for that? The was it the six? The Glass Line Grand Prix.
Yeah,
The Indian band.
What was that case? Did you see the case?
so it was a campaign.
I'm sorry, Glass Lion is what?
The Glass Lion is the lion that's given specifically to campaigns that promote gender equality. So there was one with a rugby player, the first major league rugby player to have come out as being gay, for example. A campaign that examined, which I quite liked, why girls get paid less than boys for doing the exact same job. And then the winner, as we spoke about just now, was one in India that promotes the transgender society. So they did this by starting a band, like a girl band effectively, and the same people who were ostracized in the streets before were now being recognized as celebrities. And it's actually quite heartwarming. It's like Debbie said, it's all about doing good and promoting change, and that's good for us to see.
I think two themes for me. I mean, I think that whole equality and inclusion. I think just general inclusion is a massive theme this year, and it's brilliant because I mean, I think as an industry we are the publicists. So in whatever discipline we work, it's inherent upon us to try and sort of bring people in, include people, and make sure that nobody's on the outside. I think the second theme that I've seen is nobody on the stage. To Reed's point about the words, the trigger words that you pick up. Nobody's used the words original. You've got Mark Twain said that there's no such thing as an original idea. And the Burger King stuff is brilliant, and it can win in print because it sort of uses advertising to sort of go back and entertain and engage. It's almost like the audacity of the idea. It's one of those, they did that, And I think that's what good advertising is all about. I think bad advertising is the sort of, you did that, but for all the wrong reasons. On the first day I was looking underneath the Palais, which is actually where all the...
Yeah, well, maybe describe that a little bit. So we're out in the Croisette, which is a long beach that runs along the waterfront of Cannes. I should have a slide for that. Apologies. And we're adjoining in the Ogilvy studios, adjoining the what's called the Palais. The Palais is a conference center, not really a palace. And it's
definitely not a palace.
A concrete building.
That's right.
Bunker, more like, actually. And on the bottom floor every day they show the work.
I think on day one, I mean, whenever I've come with people or whenever we've sent people, I've always encouraged people to, on the first day of the competition, go underneath, have a look at all the work. And it's pretty static. I mean, there are now installations and everything that you can see, but I felt that a lot of the work this year, the print stuff, was almost getting away from itself by just being there for the sake of it. A lot of it felt quite sort of scammy, actually. A lot of it felt that it was there for the sake of being there, and it didn't have that sort of clever. It wasn't linked into a great idea. There wasn't a piece of
what, for people who aren't familiar with that.
Yeah, just was it really asked for by a client? Was it? I mean, it has to be paid for by a client, otherwise it wouldn't be down there. But the whole idea is sort of where the original idea comes from. Was it a one-off? Is it part of a bigger thing? Does it really exist inside the brand's universe and things like that? So I think there's a great danger for print to put its own self out of business if it carries on like that and doesn't carry great ideas as part of something much wider like Burger King. And just back to what Debbie was saying, I mean, everything is PR. PR is absolutely everything. I mean, that unless it's being talked about, unless you're pushing that word of mouth, you know, it doesn't get the same sort of star value that the Burger King stuff had. So it's great to see a sort of march back to print. I think just continuing
march back to print with good ideas
with
and
good
something
ideas,
that's impact.
so that print doesn't get left behind, you know. And TV, if you look at a lot of the stuff that's been winning in the US and the UK, a lot of TV work is still right up there. The Effectiveness Grand Prix went to a UK retailer, a very, very unfashionable sector called a department store, which is a sector in decline, you know, where everything has to be sort of bespoke and served up individually these days. But John Lewis won the Grand Prix through their specific use of television, and it was about emotional engagement, and you know, and so it's quite nice to see that those media, those specific media, the traditional media, you know, as we might call them, have sort of come back again. And so it's not all about new media. I think we've been chasing that new media, the shiny thing, over the last few years. It seems to have come back. It's not just new media now. It's new media and new combinations of old media, and I think that's what is quite nice about this year. Reed said it, the ideas seem bigger, more inclusive, they're there for a reason. So yeah, the work seemed overall as a body, and there were exceptions, but the work overall seemed bigger.
First, it's worth noting that you're talking about the inclusiveness felt here on the morning that we heard the vote for Brexit in the United Kingdom.
I'm so glad you said it. I didn't have to.
So let's hope the spirit of inclusiveness continues even as we move forward with what Brexit actually means. But I'd like to come back to Debbie, because we have two questions coming out of Asia in relation to what you were saying about Asian participation, which I think is great. The first one was Shashwat Uthappa, which I presume you're in Thailand. Sawadee Krap. Who's saying that the problem is that we lack scale in global campaigns from Asia, which my comeback to that would have been, but wait a minute, China is so big. But I have an answer to that from Callum Cheadle, who's writing from China, saying from China we create advertising for this market. We're advertising for 1.36 billion people, the scale issue. It's a huge number, but the effort is not reflected in lion wins. What can the Ogilvy China office do to win more lions? Do great work, for one thing. Continue doing great work. And are we primarily looking at a client education job? I mean, you know, the best work that can be produced out of China, how can we make it more reflected in the wins here?
Right. That's a big question. I think this is a
great question. Thank you,
great,
Callum.
yeah. And then I think it's gonna take a long time, right, for Chinese, for other Asian markets to sort of learn, you know, and how to, you know, play together with the other international players. I would think, first of all, coming from the idea, actually, from what I saw, the ideas work across all cultures. You know, from China, I would say.
So you don't feel that there's an anti-China, anti-China feeling, but there's not.
It's not an idea that Chinese won't understand, a different culture won't understand. Some maybe, right, but not primarily. I think 99% you can understand. So I think that is one thing. So when we, you know, develop creative ideas, we should think about a bigger ideas that links to human, a people, not necessarily like you are a particular tribe or what, right? So I think make our ideas work across all cultures. That would be one thing will make us stand out, right? And then another thing is, I would say a quick one will be, please do take a look of all the cases, all the shortlisted cases of kinds, right? Great learning there, I would say. Right?
Yeah, and that's something I'd emphasize, which is, and that's my reflection on how I've seen PR change. There is a language of Cannes, and it's not English, it's not French, it's not Chinese. It is a visual and storytelling language that you know, the creatives, as Reed knows very well, put so much work into crafting that story about the campaign.
Yeah. For example, I say the man boobs. Right, I like a lot, right? So this is a campaign in Argentina, right? It's about, because, you know, regulation, you can't show a woman's body, right? So you can arguably say, oh, something that's only related to Argentina because it's to solve the a regulation issue. But then they cleverly came up with an idea that they have a man, you know, demonstrate how to self-examine breast cancer. So I think this is a great idea.
And
right?
Debbie's-
That
Debbie's
work
right.
across all cultures.
It transcends cultures. You're
Yeah.
absolutely right. It's something everyone can relate to
Yeah,
when they
everyone.
see it, and
Like the
everyone
Rhino,
deals with the
everyone
issue
can
of censorship.
Your Rhino campaign, everyone can relate to.
Well, I wanted to say to
Yeah.
Ogilvy China, that's one way that you can probably look at some Cannes wins in future.
And that's it.
We'll
Ogilvy
be in touch.
Ogilvy China has not done bad in Cannes.
Yeah, they've done well in the last few years. So, and a lot of other
You're not-
and a lot of other agencies as well. I think that
So what can they do? What can be done more to drive forward? Not just for Cannes, but Myanmar. We want Myanmar up there getting a gold or even a Grand Prix.
well, I would argue that Asia Pacific, is always incredibly valuable to Cannes and has had really big success. Maybe in different markets, like Thailand always perform really well. Japan dominate on design categories, and I think it's just about finding that voice. Yeah, everyone wants to have a nuanced voice. It's a product of everything being in English, being judged by English-speaking people or people that can understand that, and being a mandate. Either subtitled or spoken. So it does kind of the language of Cannes. It does kind of either keep the idea pure and simple, so it's easy to get by anyone, regardless of language, and it's very visual. Which is kind of the common theme, I think, historically throughout Cannes. There's been some great examples like Myanmar, Pakistan just won their gold Cannes Lion, I think 2 years ago, first one ever. It was incredible. And we'll see more of that.
Okay, so speak specifically to our friends in Myanmar. What can they do to not be watching this from Yangon, but come here next year to win a gold at Cannes? What is the process that you go through?
I would think that I would keep it. Just be true. Don't try and research. Look at all the great ideas around the world.
So
that are coming out.
first thing is look at who won this year.
Yes.
Download all those videos. It's going to take a
Have
long
a
time through
It will
the
teach-
internet in Myanmar, but
But that's more about, I think, being inspired, but also being able to create something that's presentable.
Right.
In terms of
and that's learning the
maturity,
language of Cannes in a way.
How to tell that story. You have to come up with a great idea to begin with.
But in terms of telling the story, how much work goes into these videos?
Too much work. It's ridiculous. For me, I think it's a waste of time. But you have to do it. It's it's part of.
But a lot of it is the
submission
crafting the
process.
story. I mean, I've heard stories of
I
people.
would rather spend time on making the idea than doing
Right.
a follow-up film
Right.
that only a few people see.
Right.
But that's
Well, I mean, from my point of view, I like Callum's question. Back to Debbie's point. A good idea doesn't care who had it. Okay, so and we are all capable of great ideas. I think for me, back to Myanmar. Okay, I think we all have great ideas all the time. Like when you're relaxed and in a conversation with your friends, you're having great ideas. When you crack a joke and everyone laughs, that was a good idea. And there's two things within putting great work together that's Cannes-worthy, if you ask me. I mean, I think one is very often you get to a good idea and you don't know that it's a good idea. I mean, there's a very simple idea here for Save the Children from South America, and it was a symbolic campaign. Whether they actually did it with scale or not, I don't know, but they definitely did it in the air because I saw the effectiveness case for it. But they took empty bullet shells and they made them into pens, and it was just a very simple way of saying to kids, right, don't fight. And it was as simple as that, and it was a lovely idea. Now, when you guys in Asia have a look at the work that's gone in this year, every single one, almost without exception, you'll look at them and you go, oh, I could have done that. And you'll show it to your mother and your father and they go, oh, I could have done that. Is that what you do? That's what we do. And what we are brilliant at as an industry is just massively overcomplicating it. If you speak to the people, one of the big winners last year from Ogilvy 1 was the British Airways, the little boy pointing at the, I can't remember what the campaign was, but it was for British Airways. Somebody said, imagine if we could do a poster that points at the thing. That was a front-loaded idea that had to be put into life. Very often we just got to get the idea and stick to it and get behind it and make it, and then start to break it out. As Reed says, start telling the story around it. We always seem to be hopping around looking for the next thing. One last thing, Debbie, just on how to include China more, how to include non-English speaking countries. Just get more people on the juries, and it's one thing that I think we as Ogilvy in Asia have already taken up with the organisers here, is to get more jury members from more markets into next year's competition, and also more younger people as well.
Speaking of juries, have you served on a jury, Reed?
I haven't.
No. Okay, Reed, can you talk a little bit about what that process is, how it works, how the dynamics of it, what it's like spending 7 days in a dark room.
Well, specifically in Cannes,
While everybody thinks you're enjoying the beach in the south of France.
You do get locked away for a long time.
How many cases do you look at?
Oh, there's thousands and thousands. Yeah, depends what jury you're on. Yeah, if the film jury are judging, I don't know.
There are 43,000 entries this year.
43,000
For the
entries.
whole-
So one jury will
Well,
you know,
2,000,
the-
1,800 or something like that.
divided among how many people?
It's 12, 8.
12 people
depends on-
looking at
yeah.
1,000
Yeah,
films.
it's incredible.
I think
So
overall
they're all
there
different.
are 43,000 entries this year, and there are 1,050 different categories. So if you do the maths on that, you're probably looking at 400
Yeah, it's crazy.
per jury, aren't you?
Yeah.
No.
But some are more robust than others. But film is quite difficult. They're still in there probably judging right now. But it's interestingly because of the scale of Cannes. Yeah, the more work that's being entered, the less chance the judges have to see it. Yeah, so
It's a snap decision.
you'll get
Right.
split though, but you get split as well. Yeah, so half the jury will see half the work. Yeah, you'll do pre-judging before people even get here. Yeah, so a lot of good stuff can be just getting tossed.
Okay.
Yeah, left under the carpet. Yeah,
And they've actually
reverse, there's
because
a lot-
of that they have processes, don't they? Where once you've got to a certain point, you can call one piece of
You
work
can
that got
bring
rejected,
some back, yeah,
bring
yeah.
it back in.
But there's so much work that if you bring one piece back, I'm sure there's 10 others that are pretty good too. But it's going to make it a lot longer. The
But
festival's gonna be 2 weeks.
and one important point about this is it is not the Cannes Lions that decides who wins, right? It
No.
is the industry itself.
Correct. Yeah.
So the people who are going to vote for your work are all of your
Peers.
rivals.
Yeah, rivals, peers.
So nobody wants you to win.
No. Well, they do. They're one of the best ideas to win. I don't think everyone's really going to be tossing stuff out based on that. So, I mean, all the politics, I think, has been removed successfully over the last few years. There's no block voting's kind of still there. Like regions ganging up, to protect their interests. But there's only a certain amount of representatives from a certain region.
The added diversity actually probably
Correct.
makes it more meritocratic.
Yeah, but then you also, but you have different levels of experience as well on those juries too. So you're really, it's a real cross section, of your peer group. Some good, some not so good, but you got to trust in the greatest work will win at the end of the day, and be happy with if things fall off.
So moving away a little bit from the elements of the prize element, let's talk a little bit about the festival. What's happening with the festival itself? Because it's not just the awards, and I don't know if you all have had a chance to go at all into the Palais and hear any of the talks. I was involved I gave one talk actually just across here at the Young Lions, which is where young creatives who have been honored by merited winning an award to come here, spend a week having talks from lots of people in the industry, really lively and engaging group, which was fantastic. And then in the Palais, there are speeches. We had Will Smith. I saw Keith Weed, the CMO of Unilever.
David Copperfield.
Gwyneth Paltrow.
Okay, well, what have you all seen? Any highlights? Debbie, have you had a chance to get in?
I have seen quite a few, right? Gwyneth Paltrow, Oliver Stone, right?
Oliver Stone, was that
Oliver
interesting?
Stone, yeah, not as interesting as Alejandro.
Alejandro,
Oh,
the director of Revenant.
I think his session was
And so
the
what
best.
and this was actually the Ogilvy session,
Yeah,
and that
yeah, that's
is
right,
a
yes.
legitimate point of view.
Yeah,
That's not
yeah.
because it happens to be the Ogilvy
no,
session.
no bias here. No bias.
No bias. Okay.
No bias.
And why was it interesting? What did he bring out?
I think, well, first of all, he has an advertising background, right? So he sort of understands the industry. I think he can relate to what we do, and I can feel his passion when he talks about that. It's about every second counts, right? So when he was in advertising, right? So every single second counts like a drop in the water, right? There are a lot of sound bites there. I just feel so excited. So it just touched me, right? And then he was talking about the whole storytelling, right? Push hard in using different treatments, right? To do something different, right? He's done Birdman, and then Revenant is so different. So he's tried so many different things. Yeah, pushing boundaries. I think this is amazing. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Learned it. What did you do?
And by the way,
Yeah.
he also talked about music.
The importance
Right.
of music.
Yes, importance of music. Certainly. Right. I think the visual and the audio together. Wow, very
First
powerful.
job in radio.
Yes.
Yeah.
First job in radio, really.
Yes.
That's awesome.
So it's amazing.
He also talked about VR technology as well,
Yes.
which was pretty
Yeah.
pretty
Pretty
crazy.
big
I hadn't
design,
really
yeah.
thought about
talking
that.
talking about what element of VR.
Well, in terms of like a director's job, is to direct people a certain way along a certain path about a character or a storyline or whatever. But VR,
Yes.
you've got everything else. You've got
Yeah.
the other 95% of the picture.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so how do you direct someone who's choosing their own path in that environment? Yeah. So he's like, it's really difficult. I hope someone solves it. Maybe
But from what I understand, he was also fairly critical of it, saying that my job is to tell a story,
Yeah.
and it's not a make your own story. People want to be entertained and want to actually.
But I
be
think
brought
he
down
was
to that.
open. He was open enough to say that no one's figured it out yet. There's got to be a way to figure it out.
And maybe
he
there-
mentioned
yeah.
Throwing it out
Yeah.
there.
Lumiere with the train coming towards all the people and they're all freaking out for the first time. It's that moment again. Yeah, VR is that
Right.
where
He
it's all
seemed to be-
immersive.
He seemed to be sort of challenging the industry, to sort of use more of technology. So I felt he was saying that he felt the industry was like a laboratory for ideas around VR. And VR's been huge here. I mean, there are some big exhibits down here on the Croisette. I can't remember what the companies are, but there are three companies down there. Samsung's huge down here. IO is down here. Huge, sort of VR sort of exhibits showing people what it is, how it can make you feel. And actually, in the promo and outdoor category, there was a gold winner, which was for Jaguar. And did you see it? It wasn't virtual reality; it was actual reality.
Yeah.
Actually, what a concept!
I don't think
It's
it was
very strange.
Yeah, I felt that I.
Actual reality.
Well, it showed up in the PR category, and they felt that the jury felt they'd seen it before, so it didn't win in PR. But it was basically a lady gets into a car, puts the seatbelt on, she puts the thing on, and then they literally do take the car out with the race driver and come back. She said, "Wow, it was so real." They're like, "Well, let me just show you what's just happened," So they're almost like cooking a snooker, a virtual reality. But I actually think VR is going to be much, much bigger. And as Reed says, it's a much, much bigger opportunity for the brand. Not just in terms of the communication, but in terms of the experience. That's great for retail.
And Debbie, you actually I saw a video of you trying out VR.
Yes, I tried out. Yes.
That is
It's
a.
amazing. I think it's I've done it before, right? But I thought it's quite fun to do it again this time. Amazing. I do agree that the VR it's a great experience. It's a sensational experience. You're in the story, right? So
the one saying they have in the VR world, which is there are those who think that VR is the future and will change humanity, and there are those who have not yet tried VR.
right.
Lorinda, what have you seen in the Palais? What have you?
Well, from a client perspective, I think looking at it from a different set of eyes, David Copperfield's talk, I was really surprised at because it wasn't so much about the magic as you would expect. It was about the telling of a story, which seems to be the theme that's kind of permeating what everyone else is saying. That it's very much about telling a story, integrating different using different types of media. To send a coherent or consistent message and to make people feel something. So the music and the making it an experience, and it's all about storytelling, and that was kind of the central focus of it. There were some little bits and bobs of magic that's still left you thinking, I'm not quite sure how he does it, but it was all about how he tries to tell a story, and that there's a slow build up towards something. And maybe that is what advertising is essentially meant to do. What I hear everyone saying really is that you want great ideas at the core of a campaign, and my feeling is that people respond to sincerity. The campaigns that I've seen here that have left me actually feeling the most or thinking about it for the longest were ones that you could see were telling an authentic story from beginning to end. The child marriages campaign, for example, I mean, I felt ill about it for the entire next day, that the children effectively being sold off and married off at the age of 9 or 10 or 11. And that's what you want for, number one, people to become aware of something that they didn't even know existed, and number two, to feel compelled to do something about it. And that's what advertising has the power to do, to take something like that the world is oblivious to, and to give it a voice where and when it matters most, and for it to not get lost in the glitz and glam of Cannes, to see that it actually transcends this festival is brilliant. It is about a story, and a story that unfolds as it does, not about trying to steer the story in a direction.
Yeah. So we have the competition, we have the program. We also have, of course, what people are talking about on the streets of Cannes. But before we get to that, what is sort of the trends of this Cannes in terms of the conversation? Before we get to that, a quick commercial break for Ogilvy Do, where you can watch, see, participate in Cannes. OgilvyDo.com. That's been covering a lot of the events in terms of the videos and postings and some really great material. So, but what are some of the trends we've seen this year, or what are some of the conversations going on?
I think, well, I think, as I said, I think one of them is a walk back to, new media and new combinations of old media, as I mentioned earlier. I think there's another theme that I picked up from I went to 2 lectures and a seminar, and people were worried about the damage that short-termism can do to brands and the value of advertising. And I thought it was an interesting theme. I haven't really sort of chewed it through completely yet, but I get it. You kind of, we very often speak to clients and they just want to do something now. Whereas actually a lot of the stuff that is winning is either a brilliant idea, which is at the start of something, or a brilliant campaign, which is at the the end or the beginning of the next sort of phase or whatever. And I just sort of worry slightly that as an industry we've got away from campaigns, we've got away from sort of things that you can call true north, and brands helping society, brands helping causes, have a role to make sure that they're there for good, but they're there for not just for good as in doing good, but they're something that people can actually latch onto. And I think that's why a lot of the big brands are here. So, your Samsungs and the Unilevers, and that's why the platforms are here, to give some sort of ballast and some sort of permanence to the stuff that we're doing. So one big thing for me was just that I was just worried that a lot of the stuff we're seeing here was sort of maybe tomorrow's chip paper, and it was just sort of churn and burn.
So just, not a deeper idea, not a big idea.
I mean, as Ogilvy is an agency, we've always been a big brand, a big campaign agency. And you go back, sort of saying with China, the question about how do we export from China? Well, one way to do it is make more campaigns, build in more longevity. Glorious.
So building a brand rather than something that's more tactical.
Build a brand rather than just next week's sales figures. I know the world has shortened. I mean, monthly reporting and all that kind of thing, but
right.
It does. A brand can help that to happen rather than having to sort of slip within the boundaries of that short-termism. A lot of people that I've spoken to this week are working with Huawei, for example. And then you look at the Carnet and, Huawei's here in force. There are a lot of people here from Huawei. They're really serious about being a big China export brand. And they understand that to do that, yes, they have their short-term objectives, but they've got to be something. They've got to stand for something. They've got to be something that people know. And there's a great tendency for us to build something up. Everybody gets terribly famous. Says, great, that was then. But remember, the people that saw it were only the people that it was aimed at. The first rule of PR is the radius and what people say about it. That's how you expand your markets and your targets.
That is happening though, David. Is it just sort
The
of
short-termism?
Yeah, people sort of want instant gratification, or what is it? Or are agencies just not willing to invest a year of their time on actually running a good campaign from beginning to end, then continue it beyond that?
I think you could say, cynically, well, it starts from having to make your monthly figures, so everybody's looking for the best possible deal, which on the marketing side, obviously, you have to make sure that you've got the best possible deal, but you have to come into marketing going, it's an investment, not a cost. So if you start there, first of all, then you have to decide that your trust runway, if you like. I mean, the John Lewis guys have been working with their agency for 8 years, and their campaign has only really gained traction at year 5. And remember, they're a retailer. They're probably measuring weekly figures, but they've stuck with it. They saw the idea, they've gone through with it. Their media strategy is very, very focused. We only do television. Their time strategy is very focused. We only do the last 2 months of the year. So I think that in the world of marketing, one of the things that's leading this is that massive fragmentation. Everyone's going, well, I want a bit of everything, you know.
Yeah.
And if you rush through a supermarket like that, you'd end up with all sorts of things on your plate, and it might end up being a bit of a mess. But if you're focused, back to Reed's point about a brilliant idea, in your marketing and your media planning and who you really are talking to, if you stand for everything, you stand for absolutely nothing. You've just got to talk to the people that really matter, and that plays into the big data conversations that people are having. I don't mean big data in brackets, I mean big conversations about data. But data is very, very confusing unless you pick the bits that are most relevant, analyse it, condense it, and then... But I think marketers need to be more prepared, from my point of view, to be more exclusive, frankly. I mean, the world is... Everyone wants something made for them.
Well, it's all more project basis now too, yeah? So that
A lot of
kind
project
encourages
basis
it.
as well.
But
Reed,
you have to do the projects in a way that does not have that actually builds the brand in a longer way. It's not a tactical project, but a strategic.
Yeah, you can have projects within a client sort of assignment now, can't you? But you're still, yes, I mean, you're still singing for your supper every day. Nobody's just paying you a fee for sitting there waiting for the next brief, for example. So, I mean, that's the new way that agencies
One
are
challenge,
set up.
as we're talking about this, the award-winning work, the work that has the longer breadth to it. How is it, Debbie, that we can sell in award-winning work? What is the challenge? How do we? That's a question coming out. By the way, it's not my question. This is a question from Shashwat. How do we sell in the potentially risky but potentially award-winning and creative work? What is the key to getting the client over the line?
Well, first of all, you need to know client's hot button, right? So if
Their
you're talking about
problem.
some selling skill here, right? So first of all, you need to understand hot button, right? So you answer that hot button, right? And then I think you need to the whole selling is always almost like a storytelling itself. I think that from my experience, for the pitches, for presentations that I've taken part in, every single one that went well are the ones that we did it like a storytelling. Right.
So you're talking about selling your services to the client.
Yeah. How do you get a client to take a risk? Because a lot of these ideas here are quite risky for a client to do.
Yes.
So why would I take?
So
why
how
as
do
a
you
client
sell
would
the
I
idea?
take the
That's
risk?
right. How do the way we it's
How
like
do you sell the idea to the client?
How do you convince
that's
them?
right, and that's why a lot of time I feel that with a creative being part of that presentation, taking part is excellent.
Yes.
It's excellent. It makes a big difference.
So Reed, what is your point of view on this?
I mean, personal experience, 95% of anything that I've ever presented has been killed.
And you're one of the more successful ones. So that's a pretty good track record,
I've been
actually.
doing this for about 20 years, and over that 20
You
years,
understand client's hot button first.
95% has been left on the trash heap.
My name is Reed and I have rejection issues.
For whatever reason, someone, they either hate it, or it's not good enough, or they don't have enough money, or the director cancels. There's a bazillion reasons why great ideas die. I'm not saying that all the ideas are presented awesome. I'm sure they're plenty average too. But tenacity, and not. I think the simple rule for me over my career is not. That's probably why I haven't sold as much. Some stuff's died, but not bringing average to the table again. Don't, like, when you get rejected, don't dumb it down and bring back what the client exactly wants and has asked for. Keep challenging them every time you bring back. Because if you bring back the safe idea on the table, they will always buy it, 100%. So you got to find that balance. Obviously, we all want to make something together. To help their brand and to solve problems. But keep pushing, be tenacious.
And trust me, from a client perspective, at some point you do need someone to tell you, this is my job, let me do it.
Yeah,
because
you were talking
otherwise
about
the client wants to micromanage every
but
step
Lorinda,
of the
you were
process.
the client, remember? The
Yes,
client, the agency was showing Lorinda work that wasn't hard enough for her, and she's going back and going, no, I want more. And they're like, well, and it wasn't them trying to sell more hard stuff to Lorinda. It was to stop Lorinda pushing for more hard stuff. You have to find it was the other way around.
Good client to have. Good
None of
client
us
to
are like
have.
me to know more. Want more.
But I would challenge even the question though, Thomas. I don't think you sit down to write an award. Okay, and I think an award is an outcome. It's never an objective. Okay, the job is, we said it earlier, a simple, brilliant idea, but, you know, clearly executed with a story around it that's like, you know, crisply told, okay, with conviction. Back to the conviction point again.
Absolutely.
They are the essential ingredients of what we're seeing here. You know, if you sit down and try and write if you could sit down and write Cannes Awards, we'd all have thousands of gold lions just like Reed in our cabinet at home, okay? And you don't. I mean, they are as rare as chicken's teeth. I was saying to Lorinda on Tuesday when you won the bronze, having already won a silver, by the way. And thank you, Vietnam, for that. But I know we're going to get onto that later.
Yay, Vietnam.
But yay, Vietnam. You know, I mean, I just that whole sort of simplicity of message is just really, really important. You know, and you know, and you can't get away from that.
Okay, so David, I hear you. Having heard the awards are not what it's all about. Let's talk about the awards.
Moving swiftly into the awards.
Moving swiftly into the awards. And on the screen here we have the Ogilvy Do studio here, which we're actually in right now. You can see a lot of the interviews that are taking place here, and some of the content. And now we're getting to the awards where they stand. Who is best positioned? Reed, have you been following this closely?
I have, but I don't know what you're showing there.
What we're showing here is the ranking of Ogilvy in Asia.
Asia Pacific?
Yes.
Yes.
Where we seem to be in fourth place.
Fourth place, yeah. I mean, I think
Fifth place.
I think that's probably about historically where we sit. I think. I mean, it's not. I mean, we've done quite well there. I think that thanks to Vietnam, Bangkok, Japan, they've been the ones that have really stood out for us as a network or in the region. Hong Kong has not contributed, so apologies in advance. There's still one more day.
One more day.
Yeah.
I think they're the shortlist, though, aren't they? So they're
No, these are the
winners.
I can't
winners.
see them.
Yeah, gold,
Okay.
gold,
Yeah.
silver, bronze.
But
Yeah.
overall, Ogilvy, last I checked, which was before the awards yesterday, was doing well in terms of
Overall. Oh yeah, global.
in
network
terms
the
of
year?
towards Global Network of the Year. That said, it's the last couple of days, today and tomorrow,
It
that
always
really
comes
determine
down
it.
to that. Yeah. So I
A
mean,
lot of
there's
the big awards come through.
there's still titanium integrated film craft. Yeah. There's still all the film lines that are yet to get presented tonight or tomorrow night. But I think, you know, Ogilvy started off with a bang, yeah, at Pharma and Health, yeah, thanks to London, their Breathless Choir work from Philips, that got us, you know, Grand Prix, and beginning of the week it was like raining down, yeah, and then it was kind of like just plugging away a little bit during the middle of the festival. YNR had really kind of taken it up to, you know, level pacing, and they'd done they're responsible for the McWhopper work, which has done really well, and they did a lot of great outdoor and print work, which you all should take a look at too. So they, you know, neck and neck, and I think BBDO a little bit behind, but I think they've got, with 30-something shortlist in film, there's still a chance. Yeah, so it's by no means a done deal. Yes, Ogilvy are probably up the top three. Yeah,
so what you're really saying is thank God for Vietnam at this point.
Yes,
I mean,
We say that often. We say that often.
my peeps are represented.
I think Thomas, just on this particular slide, I mean, you know, Eugene set out at the beginning of the year to make it a much more focused campaign this year to come to Cannes. So instead of just putting in everything, you know, and Reed, you were in all the meetings and on all the calls and everything, it was much more focused. So coincidentally, our best year ever was 2013. We had 690 entries that year. It was our best year ever. By some twist of fate or whatever, we've also got, or coincidence, we also have 690 this year. And in speaking with Eugene, he set a target of just over 20 medals, and we are currently on 18.
Wow.
So we're 3 off. So he feels that if with a long outstretched arm, we might actually hit the target. So this year, a more focused campaign. This year, a little bit more sort of clarity on what we expect to come away with, and a bit more sort of realism in all of our numbers. Just means that we're sort of, you know, we're playing at Cannes rather than playing with Cannes.
Right. Okay. Excellent. Well, thank you very much for coming in, David, Reed, Lorinda, Debbie, for an early morning discussion about Cannes, and good luck for everybody who has things work in for the next couple of days, where we might have a chance. There's still a chance Ogilvy could do 5 years of winning in a row, which has never happened before.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Thank you.